What's it look like to buy a house in Idaho? I'm going to give you a brief overview of what it looks like to buy a house, some of the steps that we'll see between initial consultation, thinking about buying a house, and closing day. So first step, which is really important, is figuring out funds. Am I going to pay cash or do I need to get approval by a bank? So we set you up with a lender and you get pre-approved. They're going to tell you what you can afford to buy. And what I always tell people is make sure that you are comfortable with the monthly budget. So know if they tell you that you're pre-approved to a dollar amount, what that monthly payment is going to look like, including private mortgage, insurance, all the stuff. So you get pre-approved. Now we know a price range, set you up on a search. We're going to kind of talk about what the ideal house looks like for you. And if you're like 99.9% of the buyers out there, if we gave you 10 items and this is what the perfect house is, you're gonna have to make a compromise somewhere, okay? And things are gonna adjust. This is gonna be very fluid. So always keep myself or your agent in tune with the changes that you guys are making. If you're okay not having 2 bathrooms, or if you're okay with a split level versus a rancher. Okay, so now we're going to set you up with a search. We're going to start looking at houses. And for me, my process is when my clients reach out to me with a house that they're interested in, 123 Main Street, I'm going to do some research on that house first before we run out and go take a look at it. So what does that research look like? I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to look to see if there's any private remarks. Hey, there's nuclear waste that we've stored down in the crawl space. See if there's any documents, maybe a owner's disclosure that we can send over to you. Maybe the home is zoned for commercial or multifamily, which could be a benefit, could not be a benefit to you, depending on what your search is. So we're going to do some research. I'm going to send an email specifically with that one house that kind of covers what I've seen. Sometimes that's even getting more information from the selling agent. I've even, especially the more that I get to know my clients and exactly what they're looking for, there's even more research. When was the home recently sold? Was there information on that one that wasn't supplied on this one? We go pretty deep depending on what level of the search we're in. So eventually I'm going to send something to you. We're going to find some homes that you want to go look at. We're going to go look at the house. This is fun, right? This is the fun part. We are going to be in someone else's home, so we want to be mindful if we've got kids. We don't want them bouncing balls around. We don't necessarily want to bring our dog to the showing. While we're there, this is really important. Know that there is audio and video surveillance. It may not be in every house, but let's just assume, because nowadays you got Ring doorbell, nanny cam, security cam, Alexa, for crying out loud. If I mention Top Gun on this phone, on this video, later today I'll be getting Facebook ads for Top Gun, right? There's always someone listening. And I will tell you that I've talked to my sellers when they've had a showing and they're like, hey, those 2 people that just showed the house, love the house, they're going to be writing an offer. They stood right in front of our Ring doorbell and told their agent exactly what to write. They're going to be writing $30,000 under the list price. And know that there's someone probably listening. We're going to look around the house. The first couple showings that I do for my buyers, I'm usually a lot more quiet and I'm listening to feedback. We love the direction that the sink is facing. We like the open floor plan. We don't like the open floor plan. We'd like it a little bit more closed up. We love hardwood. We love the carpet. All the things, right? Starting to listen. And I give the example that as we transition, if we write an offer on the first one, fantastic. But as we transition through looking at multiple homes, I'm going to start to know what you're interested in. And my showings are going to be crafted based on what you're interested in. So for instance, I showed a guy a house years ago who every house that we looked at, he opened the dishwasher. So after a while, first thing we do when I went into a kitchen was I'd open the dishwasher for him. He's the only guy that ever did that, but that's him. And you were going to have something a little bit different. And so as we start to show the houses, I'm going to say, hey, unfortunately, this one doesn't have the west-facing kitchen window that you want, or this one has a lot of carpet. And remember, you told me that you didn't like carpet. I might even start to say that during my research phase, right? So I might send you an email. First couple emails, I may not have mentioned anything about the west-facing kitchen because I didn't know that was important to you. Once we've seen some houses, then I'm going to know more, and I'm going to be able to do more research for you. So now we're looking around the house. We like it. Eventually, we're going to write an offer on a house. So, oh my gosh, this is the most important part of this because it's not just about what price we're going to offer. There's 9 pages, currently 2026, in a residential purchase and sale agreement in Idaho, and it's got over 50 negotiable terms. Now, a lot of these are boilerplate stuff. You know, there's not a lot of negotiations going on, whether it's 5 or 6 days that the seller has to get a title commitment over to you, right? Like that's pretty, a lot of this stuff is boilerplate, but the important stuff is the price. We're also going to be talking about earnest money. And typically right now we're seeing a lot of offers that are coming in right around 1% of the purchase price. That earnest money is going to go to a title company, and we'll get back to that in just a little bit. Other things we're going to talk about, are we going to do an inspection? I've done tons of videos about why you should do an inspection. You should do an inspection. Go watch those other videos. And then we're going to talk about things like closing date. If you are working with a lender, we're going to make sure that we know how quick that they can get the deal to close. Pretty common to have about 30 days for closing. And what are we going to do during our inspections? Are we going to do sewer scope, septic pump and inspection? Are we going to have radon tested for? There's a lot of things that we're going to be talking about in this inspection. And is it contingent on your home sale? Is it contingent on the seller removing the horse fencing? I mean, all kinds of things that we could talk about, contingencies and everything else like that. We're going to walk through that offer process. You do need to know that once we write an offer, if it's accepted, time is of the essence. So in our offer, it's going to be 9 pages of who does what, by when, and for how much. And so that's a big part of what I'm going to help you out with, is making sure that you get your earnest money in on time, that we get the inspection scheduled. You're going to pick the inspector, but we're going to get the inspection scheduled, and then we're going to get an inspection response back in time to make sure that we have leverage, that we can negotiate if we need to do that, or that we can remove the inspection contingency altogether. Now we've gone through the inspection and we've found some things. Here's what I say. 100% of homes are going to have an inspector find something. New homes, they're going to find something. Used homes, they're going to find something. It's just how it works. You have basically 3 choices at this juncture in time. You can terminate because you found nuclear waste in the crawl space. You don't want to have to deal with that, and you get your earnest money back. The title company holds that earnest money, and if the offer is contingent on your inspection, you find nuclear waste, you can terminate the deal and get your earnest money back. If we do it in time, okay, that's why we're so important on timing. Second, we could negotiate. So found a GFCI outlet in the garage, it's not working, and the HVAC should be cleaned and inspected, not cleaned, but inspected. And so we're going to negotiate, hey, Mr. Seller, we want you to have a professional electrician repair the GFCI out in the garage, and we want to have a HVAC company come in, inspect the HVAC system, and bring it to working standards. Okay, so there's some negotiations. So we could terminate, we could negotiate, or we could move on. Hey, we found nuclear waste in the crawl space. Probably will help warm up the house, so we're good to go. We're just going to keep chucking along. Like, I'm joking. I don't think you should keep nuclear waste in the crawl space, but if we did find something like that and you're comfortable with it, we can move on. So now we've gone through, we wrote the offer, got the offer accepted, we've gone through the inspection period. What's next? If you are financing, then we've got the appraisal coming up. We're going to go ahead and tell your lender, hey, order the appraisal. That's next. Also, we're waiting for the title commitment to come back from the title company. So what's the title commitment? Basically, it's the title company saying we will ensure that you have the right to own this house afterwards. And it's more so that the seller has the right to sell it. Think of it like this. If this is in a family trust and we need 4 people to sign off on that, and only 3 people have signed off on that, we need to get that 4th person woke up out of Florida doing some signing. Or if there's a breach in the chain of title, the title company is going to handle that. But let's assume that the title company says we're good, we'll insure this. When you take ownership of this house, you now have the right to sell that if you need. It's got a clean title. So the appraisal is going to get ordered. And what's the appraisal? Well, the appraisal is not an inspection, but it's kind of like an inspection. If you're doing FHA or VA, they do some more inspection than a typical appraiser. But the appraiser is going to come out, he's going to snap some photos, and essentially the appraiser's job is to make sure that the lender is not lending too much on the house. So if you've written the offer for $1 million and the appraiser feels that the house is only worth $750, the lender is not going to lend $1 million on that house. And we have that in our offer as a contingency. So now we would go back and talk to the seller about, hey, either drop the price to $750, or I love this house so much, I'm going to bring $250,000 to the table as a buyer, or something in between, or we're walking away. We can't finance it, and the seller's not willing to come down in price. Basically, now we've gone through a couple of weeks, week and a half to do the inspection. It took about a week to get the appraiser out there. The appraiser takes maybe 3-4 days, maybe another week. We're about a week out from closing. The appraisal goes back to the bank. They're going to cross all their I's, dot all their T's. It goes to what we call an underwriter. And then the day of closing happens. We go to the title company, and we do a bunch of signing, and more signing, and more signing, and there's a lot of signing, okay? But right when we sign, you don't get the keys, okay? So here in Idaho, the title company still has to record that with the county. And you might sign a day or 2 prior to actual recording. So we sign, it's exciting, maybe take some photos at the title company, hey, just closed on my house. But realistically, we're gonna wait for that phone call back from the title company to say you have recorded. And at that juncture in time, now you get your keys. And as a buyer, you now probably have possession, unless you've negotiated some type of a rent back or delayed possession or anything else like that, to your new house, and you can start moving in. All right, so if you got any questions about it, drop me a line. You can always hit me up. BK knows the way.